You've seen the videos. A diver cutting ropes from a humpback whale, a researcher freeing a wolf from a trap, a team of strangers pulling an elephant from a mud pit. And every time, the same thing happens that nobody can fully explain. The animal stops fighting. Not from exhaustion, not because it gave up. Something else happens, something deliberate. And the scientists who have spent careers studying it are still working out what to call it. The answer is not what you think. And once you understand the mechanism, you will never watch one of those rescue videos the same way again. Start with what every wild animal is actually running at all times. Not instinct in the vague sense people use that word. A specific, continuously active threat assessment system. Speed of approach. Direction of movement. Eye contact. The calculation happens faster than conscious thought. And the output is almost always the same. Get away from the human. This is not learned behavior. It runs in species that have never encountered a human before, tested in controlled conditions, confirmed across dozens of wildlife studies. The threat response to humans appears to be encoded at a level deeper than individual experience. It is inherited, which means when a researcher walks toward a trapped animal to help it, the animal's nervous system doesn't read rescuer. It reads the arrival of an apex predator at the worst possible moment. Here is what being trapped does to the body. And this is the part most people never consider. The moment a wild animal loses the ability to move, its physiology enters a state with no real human equivalent. Cortisol saturates the bloodstream. Adrenaline climbs to levels that would be lethal if sustained. Heart rate doubles, then doubles again. A study in the European Journal of Wildlife Research found that ungulates caught in fencing show higher cortisol concentrations than animals injured by gunshot or struck by vehicles. Higher than being shot. The body is burning through every reserve it has, running every emergency system at once. From the outside, this state has a specific look. Pupils fully dilated, muscles not tense. Locked, the way a body locks when it has committed everything to a single outcome. Wildlife rehabilitators describe it as the animal going somewhere else, still present in the body, but no longer attending to anything that isn't the immediate threat. So, when a human walks closer, the thrashing gets worse. The animal's threat system interprets proximity as the final phase of a hunt. It spends its last energy on the only response its history has ever given it. And then, in some of these encounters, something shifts. The shift is visible when it happens. The rigid locked body softens fractionally. The frantic motion stops. And the animal orients. Not away from the human, but toward them. It holds that position and watches. The explanation researchers favor has nothing to do with the animal understanding rescue. It has to do with pattern recognition running out of patterns. A predator closing in to kill moves fast, with direct aggression, closing distance in a straight line. That specific movement pattern is what the threat system has been calibrated to detect across millions of years of evolution. A human trying to help moves completely differently, slowly, without sudden gestures, touching the trap instead of the animal, producing no sounds that match anything in the threat catalog. The brain searches its entire library of threat signatures and comes back empty. With no recognized pattern to respond to, the crisis response stalls. The animal doesn't relax. It waits, it watches, and it holds still. Not because it trusts the human, but because its alarm system has lost its anchor point. This is the mechanism. And it explains why some animals suspend the response and others never do. In December 2005, a female humpback whale was found tangled in rope lines 18 miles off San Francisco. 12 crab traps, 90 pounds each, hung off her body and pulled her downward. She was fighting constantly, just to keep her blowhole above the surface. A rescue team arrived. 4 divers entered the water with curved knives, knowing a single reflexive movement from her tail could kill any of them. She stopped moving the moment they entered the water. For over an hour, she held position at the surface while the divers worked across her body. At several points, she repositioned herself, rotating, extending a fin, adjusting her angle, in ways that gave the divers better access to the lines they were cutting. A 50-foot, 50-ton animal chose to hold still while strangers with knives worked around her. Humpback whales have spindle neurons, the same specialized brain cells found in humans, great apes, and elephants, long assumed to exist only in primates, associated with empathy and rapid social decision-making. The neurological architecture for processing that moment existed inside her body. Whether she used it is something the data cannot settle. In Yellowstone, a research team found a wolf caught in a leg-hold trap. The wolf lunged and snapped at every approach, exactly what the biology predicts. One researcher stopped moving and held eye contact with the animal without looking away. Eye contact between predator and prey carries specific weight in mammal communication. A predator moving to kill does not hold steady eye contact. It tracks the prey's body, watches its movement, calculates. Sustained, direct eye contact that doesn't accompany aggression or approach is a signal that sits entirely outside the standard predator threat template. The animal's alarm system, already searching for a pattern that matches a predator, encountered something it wasn't built to classify. After several minutes, the wolf stopped lunging. It sat down. It held the eye contact back. When the team began working on the trap, the wolf watched their hands. When the trap released, it stood still for a moment, looked directly at the researcher, then walked into the tree line. Field researchers call this suspension of threat response. Not trust, not understanding. The alarm system doesn't switch off. It loses its anchor point, and in that gap between the expected pattern and the one that never arrives, the animal holds still long enough for the trap to open. Now here is the part the rescue videos never show. What happens after? When the last rope was cut from the humpback off the Farallon Islands, she swam in wide circles around the divers. Then she surfaced beside each one individually, nudging them with the tip of her jaw, one by one, before moving to the next. James Mosquito, one of the 4 divers, described it to the San Francisco Chronicle as feeling like gratitude. Scientists are careful with that word. Juvenile elephants pulled from mud pits in Kenya have been documented making deliberate trunk contact with the people who freed them, trunk to hand, trunk to arm, before walking away. The trunk is an elephant's primary sensory organ, more than 40,000 individual muscles, a density of nerve endings comparable to human fingertips. When an elephant extends its trunk to touch something deliberately, it is not a casual gesture. It is an examination. Researchers have noted that elephants in rescue contexts sometimes hold the contact for several seconds before withdrawing, and several documented cases show elephants remaining near their rescuers for minutes after release, not fleeing, not grazing, not doing anything that serves an obvious survival function, simply present. The threat is gone. The animal is free. There is no biological reason to stay, and yet they stay. So why do some animals suspend the response and others never do? The pattern that emerges from the data is not about species. It is about cognitive architecture. Animals with the neurological capacity to process social information in real time, cetaceans, elephants, wolves, great apes, show the suspension behavior most consistently. Their threat systems are sophisticated enough to do something a simpler alarm cannot. Notice that the expected predator sequence is not arriving, and update accordingly. A prey animal with a less complex threat system doesn't update. It runs the same output until it can't anymore. The pattern match fails, but nothing changes, because the system was never built to handle pattern failure. It just keeps running. The animals that let humans close are not the ones with less fear. They are the ones with enough cognitive complexity to notice that something in the threat sequence is missing, and to wait to see what arrives instead. The honest answer to why some wild animals let humans get close is that we are still building the framework to understand it. What the data shows is that the suspension is real, measurable, and correlated with neurological complexity. What the data cannot reach is the inside of those encounters. What it is to be the wolf standing at the tree line, watching the people who freed it walk back to their vehicles. What the whale was doing when she moved from diver to diver in that cold water off San Francisco. Whether any of it meant something to her, or whether we find meaning in these moments because we are also animals, running the same pattern recognition. And the pattern we keep finding is ourselves. The researchers who study this most carefully hold the question open. The animals don't answer it. If this changed how you see the animals around you, hit like. It helps more people find this. Subscribe. The next video continues where this one stops. And drop a comment. Which animal in this video surprised you most, and why?